Good afternoon, Alex Michelson, Christine Devine here from Fox 11 News. We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for some breaking news from the University of California, Irvine, where right now we see a whole lot of law enforcement moving in, where there has been an encampment of pro-Palestinian students and activists for some time now. Some of those students have moved to occupy a science building, and that's where the problem lies. And there is movement right now by law enforcement to try to get those people out of there.
So we have been covering these pro-Palestinian encampments at different universities across the country. Obviously, things really got heated up at USC and UCLA, so this is not new to us. The difference today is with that tent city, you might call it, that was set up by those students, they have now moved into, as Alex said, that science building, and that's where the university kind of steps things up for themselves as well. We've seen those umbrellas before, like we saw at UCLA. We see students, which looks like they have their arms locked together. Not the largest, Alex, of groups there compared to UCLA or USC, but again, we have seen these happenings at different campuses where in other places they have gone into other buildings. For example, back east.
So because this is a University of California campus like UCLA, it is under the jurisdiction of UC Police. It is not jurisdiction of Irvine Police or Orange County Sheriffs. It's UC Police, which is a state force. The biggest state force is CHP, which is why at UCLA, CHP took the lead in breaking that up. We have seen UCPD on site. We also have seen some of the CHP officers and Orange County Sheriff and other law enforcement agencies which have been called in by the state for aid. So you see some of the students upstairs there basically barricading themselves. This reminds us of scenes which were frankly much more violent at Columbia University, where students there moved in, occupied a building. That's when Columbia said enough is enough, and the NYPD moved in. We've got some video from a bit earlier. This big box is video from earlier. You see the law enforcement presence there amassing in the parking lot and getting ready. We see also this, chopper. And so all of these folks, as we've seen in some of these folks, when you talk to law enforcement, the way of dealing with this sort of thing is to go at it with overwhelming force. This idea that you can't just go with a few officers. You want to surround it and protect yourself. Part of the reason that they frankly left UCLA open for so long was that they didn't have overwhelming force because of a lack of planning on their part, trying to learn that lesson here. And you see all of that law enforcement amassed to, potentially make their move and hopefully end up in a situation where nobody is hurt because they're able to stifle a potentially problematic situation pretty quickly.
So those protesters are surrounding the Physical Sciences Lecture Hall, which has been closed off. We're hearing that things started getting to a change at around 2:30 in the afternoon. There was a report on our side that there was some roughhousing. Perhaps a police officer had to call for some help. I'm looking at the wire service, City News Service, saying that it turned violent. So we haven't seen that ourselves in our video right here, but you can see there is a crowd there. It looks like a perhaps counter-protester there in that crowd. As you can see, there's a little confrontation right there. And that's when we saw things change at UCLA too, when you had counter-protesters show up. Things then turned violent, and then you had police actually moving in force. Why we saw the different agencies, if we can just break down what happened at UCLA, we saw first the campus police come in and tell them physically that they have to leave, the protesters. You had the Sheriff's Department for LA County do the booking and the transportation with the buses. You had CHP also. Okay, again, this is why they get concerned.
So, so we're looking at a situation here. It appears that this person with the American flag is a counter-protester who is being pushed out of this area by a bunch of people who apparently are offended by the sight of the American flag, are wearing face coverings so that you can't see them as they proudly display the Palestinian flag flag instead. And so you see some folks there trying to keep people moving, trying to get this guy out of there. Clearly, a lot of people are agitated in this situation. But this is something that we saw at UCLA and at other campuses, this idea that we are claiming territory for us, and if you disagree with us, even though this is supposedly a quote-unquote free speech area, if you disagree with our speech, we want you out of here. And that is what you're seeing in this particular situation. Meanwhile, as that sort of mini tension happens, you see the law enforcement standing by here and really doing nothing. And you wonder about what their next move is. It is typical, Christine, when we see this much law enforcement amass, they usually don't do that just to stand there. At some point, they move in with a show of force when they feel like they are ready and that it is safe for them to do so. And once they make that decision, usually it is an overwhelming statement that it's time for this to end, and frankly, they can make stuff end fairly quickly if they do that.
And so what you see there are people just kind of checking things out. They may or may not be students. What you have, Alex, with that show of force there is really an initial sign. Students, if you don't want to be arrested, now might be the time for you to leave. Those who want to stand their ground and be arrested, which we have seen on these campuses, they will likely remain until they are arrested. But again, there is that huge show of force with multiple agencies. And then they want to secure a perimeter as well. They want to kind of funnel people out of certain areas, allow them an exit out. And then you also see that tent city, which is a bit of a mess here. Looks like a small group there, but you see it's quite spread out there with a lot of tents. Looks like somebody there with a megaphone issuing some commands there or talking about what it is that they want. You can read the signs. UCI divest demands, we've seen that before, and calls to free Gaza.
And of course, in Orange County, there's different law enforcement than LA County, including a different DA, Todd Spitzer, who is a little bit more conservative than George Gascon. And so if you are arrested, it may be a little different than if you're arrested in LA County. So we're going to stay on top of this. If things escalate and get more heated or there's more conflict here, we'll come back on the air before our 5 o'clock newscast. We will definitely be back with you at 5 o'clock. We've got multiple teams of reporters headed there to cover this story, and we'll see you for sure for the Fox 11 News at 5 o'clock here on Fox 11.